Last time, Ethan Cole arrived at Hargrove Mansion, a house empty for 31 years, a house that the people of Ashwick never talked about, a house where 6 people lived, and only one walked out. The others were found the next morning, sitting at the dining table, hands folded, eyes open, not dead, not injured, just silent, every one of them, as if whatever had been living inside them had simply left. Harold Hargrove was found 3 days later, standing in the woods behind the property, eyes wide open, not dead, not sleeping, just waiting for something nobody could see. Ethan Cole was hired to inspect the mansion, to check the boilers, the generators, the pipes, the dumbwaiter system, a routine mechanical inspection for new owners who wanted to renovate. Inside the mansion, he found fresh barefoot prints in 31 years of dust. He found words scratched deep into the iron of the basement boiler. "Do not fix what was broken on purpose." And then, a piece of paper slid slowly under a door on the second floor landing. It floated down the stairs, landed at his feet. 3 words: "Leave, now." Ethan, his name, written by no one he had ever met, in a house no one had entered for 31 years. He did not leave. He picked up his toolbox, and he walked up the stairs. This is what he found. The second floor of Hargrove Mansion was darker than the first. The windows up here were smaller, narrower, like whoever designed this house had wanted the upper floors to feel smaller, tighter, more enclosed. Like a trap, the corridor stretched ahead of me, long and perfectly straight. 7 doors on each side, all of them closed, all of them identical, dark wood, iron handles, no numbers, no names, except one, the last door on the left, open, just a few inches, a thin line of darkness showing through the gap. The paper had come from behind that door. I stood at the top of the stairs for a moment, just looking at that gap, waiting to see if anything moved behind it. Nothing moved. I started walking, my toolbox in my left hand, my flashlight in my right, the beam cutting through the dim corridor. The floorboards did not creak. I stopped, looked down at my feet, shifted my weight deliberately, pressed down hard. Nothing. No sound. Floorboards in a house this old always creak. Wood shrinks. Nails loosen. You cannot walk on a floor like this without sound, unless something had been done to it, unless someone had prepared it, oiled it, fixed it. Recently, in a house that was supposed to be completely empty, I kept walking, slower now, watching the gap in the last door on the left, watching for movement, watching for shadow. I reached the door, put my hand flat against the wood, felt nothing, no vibration, no warmth, no sound from the other side. Pushed it open. The room was a study, dark wood paneling on every wall, a large desk in the center made from the same dark wood, heavy, old, the kind of desk that was built to last 100 years and had bookshelves lining every wall from floor to ceiling, books still on every shelf, their spines cracked and faded, 31 years of dust sitting on top of every single one of them. A large leather chair sat behind the desk, dark brown, cracked at the armrests, the kind of chair a man sits in for decades until the leather remembers the shape of him. A fireplace on the far wall, cold, long dead, the ash inside it gray and settled, and on the desk, directly in the center, a single candle, lit, burning steadily, the flame perfectly still, not flickering, not wavering, burning straight and clean as if there were no air movement in the room at all. In a house with no working electricity on the upper floors, in a house that had been sealed and empty for 31 years, a fresh candle, white wax, barely burned at all, lit within the last few hours. I stood in the doorway and did not move. I swept the room with my flashlight, every corner, behind the door, behind the desk, the space beside the bookshelves, empty. No one there. I walked to the desk, crouched down and looked under it. Nothing. Stood up and looked at the candle again. Touched the wax near the base. Still soft. Still warm. Someone had been in this room today. Before me. Someone had lit this candle and left. Or something had. Then I looked at what was sitting beneath the candle. Under its base. A single sheet of paper. Old. Yellowed at the edges. The same aged paper as the note from the stairs. But longer. Much longer. Pages folded together. Dense handwriting covering every inch of every page. I picked it up. Pulled the candle aside carefully. Unfolded the pages. Read the first line. If you are reading this, then the house has let you in. That means it is not finished with what it started. My name is Harold Hargrove. I built this house into something I did not understand. And I need to tell you everything, before it is too late for you, the way it was too late for me. I pulled the leather chair out from behind the desk and sat down. A mechanic, sitting in a dead man's chair, in a dead man's study, reading a dead man's letter by candlelight, in an empty mansion on a Tuesday afternoon. Every rational thought I had was telling me to put the letter down, to walk out of that room, to go back down the stairs, get in my truck, drive away, call Gerald Pitch and tell him the job was not worth any amount of money. I kept reading. Harold Hargrove wrote, I found it in the basement in the autumn of 1989, behind the boiler, hidden in a cavity in the stone wall that I had never noticed before. And I had lived in this house for 11 years by then. It was a box, iron, black with age, about the size of a large book, sealed shut with dark wax that had hardened into something almost like stone. I broke the seal with a chisel. It took me 20 minutes and 3 different tools. Whatever had sealed that box had been designed to stay sealed. Inside was a mechanism. I am not a mechanic. I cannot describe it the way someone like you would, but I will try. Gears, dozens of them, all different sizes, all connected to each other in ways that should not have been possible given the size of the box. Chambers inside chambers, small moving parts whose purpose I could not identify. The whole thing about the size of a large clock, but far more complex than any clock I had ever seen. And it was running, moving, every gear turning, every chamber cycling, completely on its own, with no winding mechanism I could find, no power source, no spring, no battery, nothing that should have made it work. But it worked. I should have put it back in the wall, resealed the cavity, never thought about it again. I know that now. I knew it even then. Some part of me knew. Instead, I carried it upstairs, set it on this desk, sat in this chair, and spent 3 days studying it. On the 4th day, I made my decision. The mechanism was connected to nothing, and this house had systems that connected to everything. Boiler to pipes, pipes to radiators, radiators to every room, the dumbwaiter shaft running from basement to 3rd floor, ventilation channels behind every wall. I thought, what would happen if I connected this mechanism to all of it? I was about to find out. Harold Hargrove wrote, it took me 2 weeks to connect the mechanism to the house systems. I am not an engineer, but I am a careful man. I followed the pipes. I traced the shafts. I found where everything connected in the basement, and I built a housing for the mechanism there. Bolted it to the boiler. Ran connectors from it into every pipe. Into the dumbwaiter cable. Into the ventilation shafts. When I was done, I stepped back and looked at what I had made. The mechanism sitting at the heart of the house. Every system in every wall connected to it. Like a heart connected to veins. Within 3 days, the house began to change. Small things at first. Doors that I knew I had closed were open in the morning. Drafts in rooms with no windows. The dumbwaiter moving between floors on its own at night. I would hear it. The sound of the cable. The creak of the platform. Up and down. Up and down. All through the night. I checked it one night at 3 in the morning. Opened the dumbwaiter door on this floor. The 2nd floor. Inside was a small iron key. Dark metal. Old. An ornate bow at the top. The barrel long and narrow. I had never seen it before. It had not been there when I last used the dumbwaiter. I was certain of that. I took the key, set it on this desk. That was my second mistake. My first was connecting the mechanism to the house. My second was taking what the house offered me. By the next morning, my wife Margaret had lost her voice. Not gradually, not from illness. She woke up and simply could not speak. Not a word, not a whisper, not even a sound. I thought it was shock, stress. I called the doctor. The doctor found nothing wrong. Her throat was fine. Her lungs were fine. Everything was fine, except she could not speak. By that evening, all 4 of my children were the same. Silent, sitting at the dinner table, eating, looking at me. Not a word between any of them. I ran to the basement that night. I tried to remove the mechanism from the boiler. It would not move. The bolts I had used to attach it were fused, melted almost, as if tremendous heat had been applied to them from the inside. My tools slipped, bent. One wrench shattered completely. The mechanism continued running, perfectly, calmly, as if nothing were happening. I went back upstairs, sat in this chair, put my head in my hands, and then I heard it, from the woods behind the house, coming through the walls, through the windows, a sound, not a voice, not exactly, more like the shape of a voice, the outline of one, the way you might recognize a word written in a language you cannot read. My body stood up. I want to be very clear about that. My body stood up. I did not decide to stand. My feet carried me to the front door, opened it, walked me down the path and into the trees. I remember the darkness, the cold, the sound getting louder, and then nothing. 3 days of nothing, until they found me standing against a tree, eyes open, waiting. I still do not know what I was waiting for, but I know it was not finished with me, or with this house, or with whoever came next. I set the letter down on the desk. My hands were not entirely steady. The candle had burned down slightly while I was reading. The flame still perfectly still. Not a flicker. I looked at the last paragraph. Harold Hargrove had written smaller here. The letters cramped and pressed together as if he had been running out of space or running out of time. He wrote, "The key the dumbwaiter brought me opens something in this house. I never found what it opens because they found me in the woods before I could search. I left this letter here in case someone came after me. Someone who understood machines better than I did. Someone who could do what I could not. The mechanism must be disconnected from the house systems, but it cannot be forced. I tried that. It must be understood first. Its purpose must be identified. A machine built for something specific can only be stopped by understanding what it was built to do. Find the key. Should still be here. I put it back in the dumbwaiter before I left that last night. I do not know why. My hands simply did it, as if something guided them. Find the key. Find what it opens. And understand the mechanism before you try to stop it. If you try to stop it without understanding it, I cannot tell you what will happen, because I do not know. I only know what happened to my family when I interfered without understanding. Good luck, and leave before dark. Whatever you do, leave before dark." I folded the letter carefully, put it in my chest pocket next to the first note, stood up from Harold Hargrove's chair, looked at the wall to my left. The dumbwaiter shaft ran behind it. I could hear it even now. Even with the letter in my pocket and the candle burning on the desk and every rational part of my brain processing what I had just read, the dumbwaiter was moving, up and down, slowly, steadily, like breathing, like something alive on the other side of that wall. I walked to the dumbwaiter access door set into the paneling. Small, dark wood, an iron handle. I put my hand on the handle, took a breath, and opened it. The platform was right there, level with the second floor, as if it had been waiting here for me specifically, and sitting in the center of the wooden platform, placed precisely in the middle, not dropped, not thrown, placed, was a small iron key. dark metal, ornate bow at the top, long narrow barrel, exactly as Harold Hargrove had described it. 31 years later, still here, still waiting. I reached in slowly, my fingers closed around it, cold, heavier than it should have been for its size. The moment my hand lifted it from the platform, the dumbwaiter door slammed shut. I pulled my hand back just in time. The wood of the door frame splintered where the door hit it. Then silence. The mechanism sounds in the walls. Gone. Every subtle hum and vibration that had been running through this house since I arrived. Gone. Complete silence. For exactly 3 seconds. Then from somewhere below me, far below the basement floor, something knocked 3 times. Slow, patient, deliberate. Like something that had been waiting for a very long time and had finally heard what it had been listening for. And then a voice, barely a whisper, coming through the walls, through the pipes, through every system in every wall of Hargrove Mansion. Come down, Ethan. I know what you are here to fix. I stood in that corridor, the iron key in my hand, the splintered dumbwaiter door beside me, the candle still burning in the study behind me, and I looked down at the floor, at the staircase leading down, at the darkness waiting at the bottom. This is episode 2 of the Hargrove Curse. What is below the basement of Hargrove Mansion? What Harold Hargrove really connected that mechanism to? And what is waiting for Ethan behind the door underground? That is a story for episode 3. Subscribe to Grey Archive Tales and come back. We will be waiting.